Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Richard Watkins podcast. I'm your host, Richard Watkins. I'm happy to be with you all today as we are about to unleash our latest and greatest episode of the Richard Watkins podcast. I have to first start out by saying the Richard Watkins podcast is made possible by the Science Policy Action Network. The world is moving very, very fast. You better catch up. If you need help, check out the Science Policy Action Network at span-inc.org. That's SPAN-INC.org. Now let's go ahead and get the proceeding because we have an incredible guest with us today on the Richard Watkins podcast. We are joined by someone who's helping young people take flight. Literally. Cory Evans is the founder and CEO of SkyLimit Foundation, a Detroit-based nonprofit that's opening the world of aviation to inner city youth through mentorship, hands-on education, and real access to the aviation industry. Cory is building a runways of opportunity where none existed before. He's a recognized leader in the business of aviation, a member of the NBAA Young Professionals Council, and a passionate advocate for the next generation of pilots, engineers, and dreamers. Cory, welcome to the show. Did I get that introduction right? What did I leave out?
You did good. You did great, man. You better than I thought. You killed the
Whoa,
interest.
better than you thought. What did you mean? What did you mean?
Man, you just went, man, that was great. I had my intro going. I'm like, maybe I need to redo my intro, my whole spiel.
Hey,
Good work, man.
before we get going and learn more about you, I know this is Detroit-based
Yeah.
organization that you're really working to support folks, but I have to say because Detroit is really big right now, just beating the New York Knicks in the playoffs, a
Oh
huge
yeah.
turnaround from
Oh yeah.
14 games just last year. Now you're in the playoffs with everything tied up 1-1. Do you watch basketball? And if so, are you a Pistons fan?
So I'm a Pistons fan, but I always been a LeBron fan. So uh, I've been a LeBron fan. I think after the Pistons lost in back in I think 2005, and I think LeBron was 2 years in, and I started to become just watching this guy over and over, and then I ended up being a LeBron fan and a Pistons fan. So right now I am going for the Pistons, and I'm also going for the Lakers, and only because of LeBron. So yeah, I am a huge LeBron fan,
Hey
and
man, you had
also
two good nights in a row. The Lakers won
I
last
did,
night, and then the Pistons won the night before.
I
Huge.
did, yes sir. And then we got the Lions coming back. The Lions coming up. Lions been doing good. So yeah,
Hey,
we're.
they gonna break your heart. I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now. They're
You
gonna
said the
break your
Lions
heart.
is? Oh
Yeah, yeah.
no.
Hey, listen. All jokes aside, thank you so much for being
Yes,
here with us. I have to
thanks.
ask, how did you get started in aviation? Take us to the very beginning. Where are you from, and when did you first start looking up at the sky and say, I want to be up there?
So, as we discussed, before, starting off, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I grew up in a neighborhood that wasn't, well, growing up, it wasn't so bad of a neighborhood. When you're a kid, you don't experience what you're surrounded by. So, grew up in Detroit, and we all have the same story. Growing up, your mom working all the time. My dad passed away early when I was younger, so that was kind of like another motivation. So just growing up in Detroit, you see what you're surrounded by, and I think being young, I noticed certain things wasn't normal. So I wasn't the guy who was. I was a guy who maybe blocks away there was drugs and people selling drugs and things were happening, but I played basketball, I played sports, so it kept my mind kind of like I was the guy that everybody knew that played basketball or football and things like that, so that kind of helped me out in a sense. But growing up, I was in from middle school to high school. In a high school, kind of cracked the code where I knew everything was copy and paste. So it was not so much of like lectures and things like that. It was more so you're gonna read this book, find the answers. And which was okay. And then once you understood that this wasn't teaching me how to get my family out of these neighborhoods or figure out how to get out of these neighborhoods. And then also when you understand sports, you say, okay, everybody is doing sports, but what's outside of the neighborhood and what's outside of sports. So watching my mom work so much, I was a guy who had to spend out of people's houses all the time. So I was always away from home. Um, so moving forward, I ended up writing papers. I used to listen to Tupac a lot. I used to listen to Tupac interviews and things like that. And he used to just say things that was just like off the wall. And it was just like, man, he's right. Like it's all these rich people and they're not giving money back to the neighborhoods. And so I started writing papers. So my grandma passed away. She had cancer. She went to school to be on colleges, and fast forward, went to school for that, and I was like, "This is foreign language. I don't even know what this is." But I wrote papers to get scholarships. So another thing I learned was while writing these papers was I was winning off of being honest and being truthful of what was going on in my environment. And, people that were getting 4.0s, I was getting scholarships over those people. And it was, it was rough growing up, but it wasn't so rough. But I did know that, man, heating up hot water on the stove some days to wash up, that wasn't normal. Most people think, okay, we come from this and we all should hold hands and stick it out and survive. So moving forward, going to high school, then we went to college, went to Western Michigan, attended Western Michigan, went for biomed. Of course, that was foreign language. And then stand up there for holidays. I think stand up there for holidays, not getting no visits from family members because they couldn't afford to travel up to Western Michigan, even though it was 2.5 hours, or they were busy working. So I had a lot of lonely nights and lonely days, which kind of force you into, A, you have to get a job because you can't sit around. So I would go to work and I will watch, I would work at a warehouse at first. I would be at a warehouse and I would go to school. So I would watch everybody all fall in line. So it's like everything slowed down working these jobs. So I would go from job to job, but I would watch everybody like everybody is in line. It's like controlled. Everything is controlled. And no one is stepping outside the box. Everybody has to follow rules, and it's okay to break rules as long as you following the law and you're doing people right. So moving forward, I changed my major to business development or business management. Uh, Ended up interning at New York Life, doing life and health insurance. That's when I knew, okay, my father passed, he didn't leave anything, no life insurance. Then I understood, okay, we were sent up to school naked as a naked kid with no financial literacy. We didn't know anything about health. Our family, a lot of our family members are passing away for the community is passing away from diabetes, the things that we're eating, putting in our system. And I started noticing, like, from the drugs, the food, to what we're watching, we were consuming so much, and it just didn't make sense to me, Richard. So it didn't make sense to me. So, not to be long-winded, but
Oh, it's all good. It's
that's where I
all
was at,
good.
yeah, going to college, yeah. Going into
Yes,
college.
there's so many things that I want to touch on, but one thing that has popped out to me was this concept of being alone. And the time alone provided you space to reflect, think, and perhaps envision. It can take us into kind of those moments and maybe kind of talk about why. I don't know if it is important, but if it is, talk about why it might be important to take time to be with yourself, to start to plan, to start to dream, and to start to envision. Because that to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that to me sounds like an important moment in
Yeah.
your life where you're like, wait, I can make an impact. I can make a change. And it was that time alone at Western Michigan where everybody else was going back home to their safe and secure life. And here you are, you're like, well, what am I about to do? What am I going to do? And talk about that.
So the lonely days to help you find yourself. So, a lot of people are not spiritual, but you find God in those moments. And I don't know, you don't know how God speaks to you, but you do know when you're lonely, you have one thing to face when you're between those four walls is you. And one thing I started discovering is, okay, first one to go to college on my family. Now I have zero support. So I didn't understand. So I started doing this thing where I would write things down. Didn't know it was called journaling because, of course, I'm only 18 years old. Didn't know it was journaling. So I was like, okay, I came from an area where there's only liquor stores, churches, check cashing places, and somewhere to get your car fixed on every single block. So it was like, why is that? And it's like, okay, we don't know financial literacy. And I ended up going to get a credit card from Walmart. I ended up getting a credit card, and I'm like, wow, this is free money. This $200. I need this. Swipe, 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 swiping the credit card, man, swiping it. And next thing I know, I got a bill for it saying you owe $200 or it's going into collections. And then, my debt started getting sold and everything just wasn't making sense. So then I was like, okay, we don't know about money. I asked my mom how to rectify it. She didn't understand it. She got on me about opening up a credit card. So those lonely nights was just like, let me do my research. Hey, with a credit card, your debt is getting sold to multiple companies. Is that legal? So I went down a rabbit hole with that. Then B, I started understanding about financial literacy. Working at New York Life, I said, okay, I'm around a whole bunch of guys that's making six figures and some have no degree. This is not adding up. And it's like, okay, now I know credit. Now I'm understanding credit, how credit work. And it's like, okay, why is it a check cash in place and no banks or credit unions in our community? It's like we take our money and we cash a check, and then we go to a liquor store, and then we go pray on Sunday. And it's just like, okay, this cycle isn't working out. So how do you break this cycle? So being alone, it makes you want to go pick up a book. You may read the first page. And the first page, you close the book and you're like, okay, it makes sense. It's a little scary. It's not making sense for my community and how I was brought up. So nothing was making sense. Being around New York Life, they would tell you, you have to ask family members to set up life insurance and things like that. A lot of people wasn't interested, but at the same time, a lot of people were passing away while I was at school, and they were starting GoFundmes. Again, financial literacy. So all of this is like fuel. This is at the same time as making me angry. Um, Eating pancakes for holidays, eating pancakes, being up there eating pancakes, and again, facing those four walls. It's like, okay, you have to do something about this. You can either complain and you can keep just sitting here praying and not putting the work in or doing no work. You'll be end up in the same spot. So I think identifying myself between those four walls was like something I started to figure out.
So, all right, so you're in those four walls. You're contemplating. You're
Yeah.
looking at the world around you. All right, now take us to this spot. How did you go from that spot? And I know we're still a few steps away before you're creating
Aviation.
SkyLimit, right? But how did you? What were the first steps that you took from those moments and those four walls? Appreciating financial literacy, but we're still a long way away from you creating the foundation. What happened next?
So afterwards, I ended up leaving school and I ended up going home for maybe a semester. And I went back home because I thought I was missing something. And when I went back home, I noticed everybody was doing the same thing. So I ended up getting two jobs, working at the airport, being a ramp guy, being a ramp guy for DTW, being a ramp guy. We were cleaning planes, we were pushing the planes out. I was a ramp agent. And then, I worked every single day, saved my money, invested in a secure credit card. So at the time, my mom didn't know what no one knew what credit cards was. So I ended up instead of putting my money in the bank, I started putting it on a secure credit card and I ended up getting secured loans. And at the time, didn't know what I was doing, but I was trying to get my mindset on paying people back and not owing people. And again, it comes with cracking the code. It's just like, wow, okay, credit is credibility. They want to see your credibility. So move back to Western, continue to do life and health insurance, and this is sales, sales, sales. I left again from Western because I figured out, okay, why am I in business school and my professors don't own any business? So you're sitting here, you're showing me about business, but you don't have a business. And I understood, okay, the schools is a nonprofit. I said, wow, so this doesn't make sense. The schools is a nonprofit, and I'm just trying to figure out all of these things. Like my mind was so filled with just questions and questions and questions. Ended up moving back home. I did door to door sales. Then I did business to business sales. Starting off there, door to door sales. And the reason I'm telling you and not being long winded is because this all added up to where I'm at today. Doing door to door sales, you get 100 no's. You knock, 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 and this is in Detroit. You're knocking on people's doors. You have people that's angry. You have people that just want to talk. And then I noticed, okay, how about I just listen? So I started just listening and I started coming up with my own scenarios. And I was like, how about this? If I had a magic wand, what are three things you would change about your services and things like that? And then open a lot of clients up. So now 100 no's turned into 5 yeses. So moving forward, it's like, okay, now I can understand rejection isn't that bad. You can either tell me yes or no. Then I moved to business, and then I understood the decision maker. Okay, I can't talk to the employee. I have to talk to the decision maker. Who makes the decisions in here? So it's like, okay, you have to cut out the middleman, and this is business. It's like, okay, sometimes you have to just cut out the middleman. So moving forward, I ended up getting hired at GM. Ended up getting hired at GM downtown Detroit. Um, got hired in as account manager. We had a book of business of like 50 to 60 dealerships that we managed. We did SEO work, SCM work. We took courses on cybersecurity, Google Analytics. So, moving forward from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So, oftentimes when you are having to deal with the middleman, they're put in place to stop you from getting to the decision maker. They're like the gatekeeper. It's like,
They're the gatekeeper.
yeah, they're asking you all these
Yeah.
questions. And also, here's the thing with all those no's. Listen, just tell me no. I don't have time to listen to all the other stuff
Yeah.
before you get to the no. I'm like, you could have just told me no and saved me 10 minutes. And so I could have gotten to knock the next door. And so I completely understand. Yeah, all you need is that one yes. And so you're at GM, right? And now you're picking up all these new schools, cybersecurity. I mean, not new schools, new skills,
Yeah.
cybersecurity and whatnot, right? So now you're at GM, you're starting to acquire all these skills. How again? I'm just not there. How did you get into the air? When did this happen? How did you start getting up into the air? This is just like a mystery. By the way,
Yeah.
this is absolutely amazing. Just a quick recap. There's a gentleman who was a son, mother working really hard, warming up water on the stove before putting it into the bathtub, right? Just to paint the picture. Cory then goes on to go Western Michigan, where this is the time when he's really starting to put things together. He leaves Western Michigan, goes to GM. I skipped over a lot of other things, right? He's also doing
Yeah. Yeah.
insurance. And now he's at GM picking up all of these new skills, right? So, one of the things I just want to point out is one of the things that sounds really, really important for folks to know is that you have to be open to learning in every single
Yeah.
environment, right? Because you just described you're sitting in class learning stuff, but it wasn't giving you everything that you needed to know. And so a lot of learning happens maybe unexpectedly, but you have to be kind of open and prepared to like kind of taking these lessons as they come in. So you're at GM. All right. So what happens next?
So moving forward to GM, I ended up getting a mentor. One of my mentors, his name was Ryan Carthage. He made me Ryan opened my mind to so many things. He gave me a book, Think and Grow Rich. He gave me some podcasts. One of them's called Impact Theory. He challenged me to read these books. and he challenged me to not be the guy in the audience that's complaining or the employee that's complaining. When you see a vice president walk around, go ask for a one-on-one. Go ask for these one-on-ones. And taking the one-on-ones, it showed me that the door is always open. And I want to go back to, because this is a part of why I started SkyLimit. Doing door-to-door sales, I started to see how impoverished our community was. And that's what woke me up. Like, it woke me up because like this is where I came from, and also doing life and health insurance. When you go around, you have to check people's health and things like that. And I noticed everyone had an underlying disease, and they couldn't get life insurance, and all of these things. It's just like all of this stacked on, and then also I want to let you know one thing I developed is fear is just a mindset. I started having, fears and doubts and things like that. And I understood developing a mentor, Les
Wait,
Brown.
wait. Wait. False
Yeah.
expectations appearing real.
Real. Yeah.
Ah,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, you got it. So yeah, I ended up saving my money up at gym. I ended up getting a mentor, Les Brown. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Les Brown. Um, and Les Brown taught me fear will put you on the bleachers. People get buried in their fears, their doubts, and their dreams. And it stuck with me so much and it challenged me. Richard, you talked about being a football player, you talked about competing. One thing I noticed was, okay, I'm not competing with my peers, I'm competing with myself. So I ended up moving to the suburbs, and moving to the suburbs, I started running trails, walking trails, listening to Les Brown, Tony Robinson, Earl Nightingale, reading Think and Grow Rich. And the first chapter talk about desire, and it talk about burning all the ships behind you. So everything that happened before me, from heating up the hot water and things like that, none of that mattered. It's just like, okay, it happened. This is my stepping stool. I seen the airplane go by. I said, let me take that same mindset to build my credit. Every time I get paid, I am going to put it on the credit card and do discovery flights. So I started flying planes, and then I started flying helicopters. Then I'm flying from Waterford, Michigan to Detroit, Michigan. It was like a 45-minute flight there and back. So I'm doing this and I'm flying over where I'm from. And I'm looking down and I'm seeing all of these burnt down houses. I'm just seeing so much. And I was, coming back. I did that a few times. I ended up flying with one of the owners, FBO owners. And he asked me if I want my pilot license. I looked into getting my pilot license. I seen how much it was. I said, no, no, no. Student loan debt is enough. No, no, no. How do you own a facility? So I asked him how to own a facility, which is the FBO,
FBO stands for
fixed base
fixed.
operations.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of like we describe it as like a jet gas station. So like a private jet gas station. So I went after the mom and pop FBO. So at this time, I'm working GM. I'm building these websites. 2020 comes. Every dealership business goes online, and people were selling their business, their car dealerships. People were getting out of business, and I started to learn how to sell businesses. So now I'm taking over the whole dealership, and I had to take over their whole online appearance. And at the same time, another mentor is the FBO owner, and while he explaining this to me, there wasn't too much of a big difference between the FBO and a car dealership. So I took the same thing I was learning from GM and just reinvented my own wheel and took it to the FBO industry. So it's like, while you're a mom and pop and you're looking to sell because you don't have an online appearance. So how about I do your marketing, your online appearance? And he said, well, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And moving forward, that's how I got into aviation, just starting off doing professional development business development for FBOs.
All right, you got to take us to this one experience because you're talking to somebody, I fly all the time, but I'm just going to have to admit for the audience, everyone outside, and if you've seen one of my speeches, you know that I've said this before. I am actually afraid of flying. I'm sorry.
You are?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going to go out there and say I am, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But that's bravery. The fact that I fly anyway, that's courage and bravery, doing it despite fear, which are false expectations appearing real. But tell me what that experience was like the first time that you flew a helicopter and the first time that you flew a plane?
I think flying the plane for the first time or getting in a plane and flying over Detroit, and this is the reason why I named my nonprofit SkyLimit. It felt like I cracked when I talk about cracking the code in the beginning, but now I feel like I cracked the ceiling. So now I feel like there was a ceiling place in the inner cities, and sometimes it can be we're not going to just box this in, but it's everyone. We all think in this small box, or we think that it's a ceiling that we can only reach and we can't go above the ceiling. So I feel like the sky was literally the limit. It was just like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. So the first time flying, it was just a thought of being free, walking them trails and getting into with nature. Again, it goes back to being alone, being by yourself, and being comfortable with being by yourself. So flying the planes, it was just like, man, this is like a experience. Your adrenaline rush. It's just like, do it again. I want to do this again. I need to do this over and over and over again. So that was, part of the experience. Yeah.
That's crazy. So what's the hardest part of flying? Is it like just flying? Is it takeoff? Is it landing? What's the trickiest part? Or is it all just easy?
It's So I don't have my pilot license. What I did was I built, being an FBO, every time a pilot got off a private jet or did a student session, I would get their contact information. So I ended up building a pilot network myself. Didn't know what I was building, but I ended up building a pilot network of 125 pilots. So now, building that network, I ended up every time they wanted to fly, I just flew with them, and I ended up making that a habit.
Got it.
Again, it's utilizing your network. It's
Yes,
understanding
yes.
utilize your network and building a book of business. So I learned this from life and health insurance, book of business. Didn't know what this was, but relationships meant a lot. Doing door-to-door sales, I learned that word of mouth is a big thing. You treat people well. I treat you how I want to be treated. Most people say it, but it's just like I'm going to listen, even though I don't care. But I'm going to listen to you because I know you need somebody to talk to, and you're going to refer me to the next person. And it moved from there to GM of having a book of business, managing a whole room of people. So moving forward, I built that network up, and then next uh, I built a network of business owners, of FBO owners. So now I have the pilots and I have the FBO owners. So now I convinced more of the pilots to land at the FBO. So didn't know I was doing business at the time, but it was just more so, okay, I understand the shortage, but this is a mom and pop FBO. No one is landing here. And it's a reason why. So let me help out with your marketing. Let me help out with your training. And moving forward, everyone was getting fired from their job. So I went back to my college buddies that were graduating. I went to the people who were getting fired from LinkedIn, Google, and also GM, and I started to bring them in to get hired in to the FBO to help out the shortage. Didn't know too much about a nonprofit, but I was doing my research. I knew about an LLC, starting a business and things like that, but not the nonprofit sector.
And so what made you think that aviation was an industry or an area that kids needed to know more about? I mean, when you were a kid, you didn't necessarily know
Right.
anything about aviation, but you come to find out all the pieces that are involved with aviation, not just the pilots, but the folks that are figuring out the carpets, the folks that are figuring out the windows, every aspect of the
Yeah.
aviation experience is part of that. How did you figure that kids in the inner city, that was something that they needed to know more about?
So if because I prepared this, there was a few things that I read that made me want to do this, and John Lewis said, "Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary noise." And Jim Rome talked about you are the average of the five people you spend time with. spend most of your time with. So understanding that we are all surrounded by a community where everybody is thinking the same. So I thought to myself, okay, the average household in Detroit makes roughly around 30,000. That's not normal. An entry job in some of these positions in aviation start off at $60,000. And it's just like, okay, how do I create this bridge or bridge this gap? The owner ended up taking me down to the NBAA. He flew me out. He spent a couple. We didn't fly. We actually drove. We actually drove with the owner and the manager, the general manager, and that was the time where we had time to bond. So when I landed, when we not landed, but when we got to Tennessee for schedulers and dispatchers at the NBAA conference, it was like Candyland. It was so many people there that were so many moving parts. And I said, okay, it's not just aviation, it's business aviation. There's people here selling uh, flat screen TVs for private jets, robes, um, carpet. There's so many moving pieces, and that's when I discovered that I set up a camera, and it's funny because I this actually happened. I set a camera up in the hall. Everybody was looking at me weird, and I started my own podcast, set up the mics, set some chairs around, and I went to go collect first all the young people. I interviewed them, set up an app called Otter to record, type up the notes. Then we went to go get the some of the owners. Then we start interviewing the owners. Then we say, okay, well, let's get all the black people, just to show people that it may be a small percentage of us, but if people can see that this is a thing, we can go take this back home and utilize it. And I think Earl Nightingale talked about success is the progressive realization of a worthy idea. So all of these things are in my mind at the time. So that's kind of like how I started. Even going back to the schools, it was just like hearing people they were talking about sports and becoming a basketball player, football player, rapping, and with this is the stuff that we talked about, and it was just like, and then also I watched how people were spending their money on luxury goods that they couldn't afford, and it's just like it's financial literacy, and we have a money problem. We have all of these issues, and I'm here to help, here to bring the resources back, and it's all about who you know.
He just dropping a lot of little jewels here. Shout out Jim Rohn. That was a really great one right there. It's like who you spend your time around. People close to you can drop something. I can't. He just had a way of talking to us. So he's like,
Yeah, he
"Don't
did.
watch your coffee."
Yes, yes. I think before the conference too, one of the things I did was when we talk about them four walls, Richard, I used to get up early, like 3 hours before the conference. And I used to sit there and I used to listen to Jim Rome. And he had a video where he talked about, he was like, why not you? You got the brains. You got, and he was talking and it was just like, okay, no nerves. I have no nerves. It's just like now you think back, this is better than door to door. Now take what you learn from door to door and go door to door to each business. I actually have a video I'll send you. Video. I went to each booth getting contacts and calling them and following up. I used the same door to door techniques, the business to business techniques, the GM techniques. Everything I learned is all about. It made me see that everything is experience. You take all your experiences, you pack them up, and then you attack.
And how are the kids? How are they actually receiving this aviation? Are they just blown away? I mean, I'm just trying to imagine what it's like for just a kid, no matter where they are, to just be experiencing aviation for the first time. What is that experience like?
So it's a great experience. One thing that opened my eyes was I spoke in forgot the school in North Carolina, actually North Carolina. I spoke at a school and I was there with pilots and flight attendants, and I came as me, the founder of SkyLimit Foundation, the guy that's on the NBAA YoPro Council. And I took my same honesty approach where I named out their celebrities, their the Rick Rosses and their Kim Kardashian and things like that. And I went down to their level so where they could understand me, where they could understand like my trip here was just random. It was just me piecing things piece by piece. And most people say, "Well, I'm going to school to be a doctor," but they really love marketing. So it's just like, "What are you good at?" I ask them, "What are you good at?" I listen to them. "What are you good at?" And they say, "Well, I like making content. I like doing marketing." Guess what? There's a Duncan Aviation out there that allows you to do marketing in their intern. They will let you intern, and you can also get paid for this marketing and creating content. Also, there were people in there that were talking about fashion. Fashion is a thing in a younger generation, and I told them, okay, well, look at the logo. Do you know how many companies need embroidery, and patches and things like that. So I helped them open their mind and to multiple things and not just thinking about becoming a pilot or just a flight attendant. There's so many different, again, moving pieces. And I think the kids gravitated to me even more. People that were nurses, uh, I gave them my experience. I said one day I was at an FBO, there was a plane that landed and an ambulance, EMS pulled up and they were taking around cancer patients. And I said, "You talking about nursing? You don't have to fly a plane. You can still do your nursing and you can still become a doctor, but you can also be into aviation and fly around. They're organ donors." It's just all of these things to help them think outside the box. I know it's it can be overwhelming sometimes, but everybody gravitated towards me because of just, man, you're down to earth, you're being honest, and that's kinda like what made them come to me. So going to school, that's what's, been very helpful for me.
And what's that feeling like when you tell the kids, where you're from? I know many times you talk to kids and you're like, well, I live right over there, or I'm from right over here, and they know the places
Yeah.
that you're talking about. Have you ever had a situation where you're talking to a group of kids and they know exactly where you came from, exactly what you did? And when that happens, as a mentor, as a business owner, like what is that feeling like when you get that type of connection?
It feels good. I have a lot of students that, it's kinda like, again, going down to the level and if we're talking Detroit or we're talking outside of Detroit, and you let them know the actual neighborhood you grew up in, and you start naming things that surrounding that neighborhood, it makes them feel good because they know that they can relate to you. And to be honest with you, one thing that really just recently helped me out, I'm going after the some of the students that is performing high in school that's in the inner city. When I talk about boiling hot water on the stoves, they're currently going through that. They're currently going through those things. When I talk about wearing the same pair of shoes for a whole year, they understand those things. Or not being able to get a haircut or getting a haircut at a house. These are things that they understand and they can relate to. And then also, you know, talking about basketball and these different sports, when you ask me about my sports team, it's just asking them these things, and you're just taking their mind off of stress and things like that. So I learned right now there's a thing that's going on with leadership. There's a lot of leadership is a little iffy right now, and we're trying to figure it out. So it's like, how do I recreate this leadership wheel where we can actually go to the kids and help them with the things they're actually good at and actually want to do. So yeah, we're moving forward.
Man, that's absolutely incredible, man. That is incredible. Incredible. All right, listen. And one, thank you so much for your time and what you do. But I
Yes,
have a few more questions. And again,
that's fine.
you've
That's
got
fine.
lives to change. I know that. And so I don't want to keep you away from those amazing children. And my question is, what's next, right? What is next for you, right? You're doing a lot of amazing things. You are working and doing great work where you are now. So I don't ever
Yeah.
want to put the cart in front of the horse, but I have to ask, what's next? Where are you going? What is on the horizon? Not only for your company, but for you as well.
So right now, I know we're limited on time, but just to get into it, doing all of this work right now, we're in the process of creating a CTE program for a school district out in River Rouge, which they have over 2,000 students. We're in the process of partnering with the Boys and Girls Club, where they're sponsoring 25 students to get their drone license. We also have, I just had a meeting yesterday with Duncan Aviation up in Battle Creek, right next to Western Michigan, where we talked about partnerships where we're doing a partnership where we're getting interns, paid interns, apprenticeships, and also their housing comp. So the internships will start off at between $22 and $24 an hour, and that's more than some people parents are making. Some of their parents. So we have that coming in. I was just approached by we did a luncheon with the we did a legislative luncheon. We met with some senators and Congress members. We're talking about now building a school, aviation school that would help build skills without a degree. So you will be able to get these skills and actually get hired into Duncan Aviation without an actual degree. So that's another thing. And we're also meeting with the Congress in DC next month for the DC fly-in, where we'll be speaking to Congress about a few pillars, whereas workforce, infrastructure, sustainability, safety, and a few other things. So we just ended up getting close to 30 professionals, young professionals in aviation. So we'll all be going to the Capitol to speak with the Congress and the senators, hopefully to pass bills for workforce development and things like that. We have the 40 under 40 coming up, which I was on the committee for that. So we have a few things coming up, man. It's a lot right now. We just recently built a trailer with simulators out in California. So I partnered with one of the guys named Dante. His corporate organization is called Next Up Aviation, where currently built out these trailers, put simulators in here. Now, okay, if you can't come to the airport, we'll bring the airport to you. So now he's currently out there doing the simulators, these drones. We're getting the pilots to come back from that network, getting the pilots to come back to speak to the community. So we have a few things going on right now. We also host back to school giveaways every year, back to school giveaways. And then for Christmas, we usually go out and get single moms. We sponsor their groceries for them, and we also take them on helicopter rides. We bring them and their kids to the airport. So we adopt multiple families. Back to school giveaway, we put random flyers in to do discovery flight. So we do a raffle. So versus us, explaining it to you, we put the tickets in your bag randomly. We give you our information, and then you're able to come out and just experience it. You and your family experience how the same experience I have, I'm giving it back to you. So the goal right now, again, not to be long-winded, is to if I can help the poverty line. I know I'm not God. I know I can't change things in a day, but once you understand that the average household makes 30,000, you understand that there's a thing where you can help out, and it's not just bringing awareness; it's by action.
Man, that's really empowering. And where are we at? And if you can talk about it, that'd be great. But if you can't, that's also all right. But where are you at in the process of the aviation school?
So in the aviation school right now, as far as the partnerships are being done right now. Of course, we had something major happen as far as funding being cut. So now, right now, I have the senators backing me up. So those meetings are in progress right now. I'm meeting with, I just met with the Michigan Business Aviation Association. So, board members from Stryker Medical. I don't know if you're familiar with the VPs from Stryker Medical, Amway, Whirlpool, and things like that. We've been meeting with them, and I've been getting backing from them. So right now, they told me to not reinvent the wheel. So right now, they told me to mimic some of the things that's already going on so they can actually fund it.
That's what's up. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. I know there's obstacles and as things change,
Yeah.
it's hard. So just definitely wishing you all the best in that regards. And the thing is I always have this opportunity to talk to the most amazing people in the
Yeah.
entire world. But it's a gift and a curse. The gift obviously is I get a chance to talk to the most amazing people in the world. The curse
Yeah.
is that I only have an hour to do it, no
I
matter
know.
how hard I focus. I look at
Yeah.
the time and my hour is gone like that. What happens is I close my laptop, the meeting ends, and then I begin kicking myself, wishing that I had to ask this question and wishing that I had asked that question. So I started doing this thing at the end of every single interview because the people being interviewed, like yourself, you may have been preparing yourself to answer a particular question that you never received. So I want to turn the tables around. I want to ask you to let me know of any question that you were hoping that I would have asked. Go ahead and ask that question and then go ahead and answer it, right? Because, like I said, there's always something that I'm missing out. So, what am I missing out? What question should I have asked?
That's a good question. I feel like we missed it. We touched on a lot of things. I feel like I didn't go into too much details about uh, more so about the aviation side of I want to give more of the why. So from starting where it's in the industry of being like over 80% white male dominant, that's another reason why I started my organization is to not only focus on the youth but also women, bringing women into the industry as well, because when you think about it, women are good with getting things done, and women is it's a rise of our women right now. So I also want to give a shout out to all the ladies that's coming into business aviation and that's making a change. And it's just really the why. I do want to explain, we're gonna have to have a part two, but I really want to explain more of the why and get into why the unknown matters. I wanted you to ask me more about the unknown because the unknown it really matters. And I think that we're in a place where tech is taking over and developing certain skills and traits right now it's a key player. It's a key ball game. So yeah, we'll have a part
No,
two
no, we
for
gonna
this.
no, we gonna have a part two, but no, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
let you out this call. Tell me about that why. Tell me about that why. Listen, I ain't in no rush if you ain't in no rush. What's up with that why? Let me hear it.
So 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 the why is at first it was confusing when you hear a white male tell you that sometimes you can be confused that when he go in detail and he tell you that a lot of us is about green and not color. And when you think about that and you look at it and it's just like, okay, you take your emotions out of it. You take your emotions out of it. And then now you look at the stats where now it's over 90% white male dominant. And it's just not just becoming a pilot, but also in business aviation in general and multiple businesses. So if there's a shortage going on, where all the baby boomers are, how do I say this? They're fading out, they're weeding out, and there's a generation that's looking to learn and explore. We just don't. The generation don't know that we see them. Like we don't see this new generation coming up, and we have to go get them. So the why is like, man, there's creators out there. There's people that know how to work AI better than some of us, but they don't know that there's a space. What they say is there's it's a big fish in small pond here. And it's like, why not get more fishes? Why not get more people to develop? So right now it's that we have a trip to Africa coming up to where now we can partner with Africa. We can do these type of things. And guess who will back us up? The youth. The youth, the future is for us. I'm only 31 years old, just turned 31, but it's funny. My last Y was I named my son Kyair, which is Kyair, because my vision started. And this is what pushed me every day I see him. He's only 2 years old, but the goal is to buy a FBO. We were in the process of buying an FBO, but of course buying get into the real estate of business aviation, and actually owning it and bringing the youth up in there to create the tech and things like that. So it's we got a few things going on.
Yeah, listen, we're definitely gonna have to have a part two because I was just about to ask you a whole nother question, which could put you on. Wait, I do have to ask: has Kair turned into your why? Have you experienced that? As like, has your why
Yes.
started to change as you've become a father?
Yes, it shows you that if you don't take control of your kid while they're young, then life will take control of them. The people around them will take control of them. So that's been like my why, where it's just like, man, it you can be this at a younger age. You can be whatever you want starting off at 10 years old. You don't have to play sports. There's a lot of things out there. You hear stories about people flying at the age of 12, flying at the age of 12 and then 14 and then 16. It's just, yeah, so that's my biggest why right now.
All right, man. Shout out. Hopefully, you're gonna have an excellent Father's Day
Yeah.
coming up here in a few months.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Well, listen. That is Cory Evans, the founder and CEO, the Sky Limit Foundation, doing absolutely amazing things. I have to give you, brother Evans, a huge shout out to just what you were doing. That is a huge undertaking what you were doing. Right. I think there are a lot of people who can do a lot of things, but there are those who actually go about in making the change that they want to see in the world. And Cory, you are one of those people. Since the time I had a chance to meet you for the first time before this podcast episode, you've been a source of inspiration. Hearing the books, the folks that you listen to, and many of them are the books and folks I listen to, it lets me know that at least I'm on the right path. I'm like, if Trevor's doing this and I'm doing this, then maybe I'll do something right. Maybe I'll do something right. But all jokes aside, thank you so much for being our guest
Shout out to
on
you
the.
too as well. Shout out, let's give a shout out to you, man. PhD student, college man, HBCU, started your own company, um, and you're an inspiration to a lot of us that's actually out here trying because you know you actually put the leg work in, and you know we talk about the behind the closed doors. There's not a lot of people out here like you, Richard, and you know I want to thank you for allowing me to join your podcast and you know listening to your podcast recently when you were talking about Doge and you were talking about innovation and things like that. These are the conversations that we're having in these legislative rooms or these closed doors and things like that. So for you to actually come out and speak on it and be that guy, you know, I appreciate you as well. And you know, we're looking more for you to you know put your face out there and you know come into the communities as well and you know join some of these aviation you know networking events because you're doing your thing, man. You're
Listen,
doing your thing.
if I didn't know any better, that would sound like an invitation to Detroit. That's what that sounds
Yes,
like. So
yes.
maybe we're gonna have to make that happen. Maybe we're gonna have to make that happen. That sounds like an invitation. Listen, before I let you go, how can folks support you? What is the best way that they can support you? The stuff that you are doing. How can they keep up with the things that you're doing? Give them all your details. How do they do that?
Okay, for my LinkedIn, which is Cory Evans, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Cory Evans. My Instagram for SkyLimit is SkyLimit nonprofit, which is on Instagram. And then also you can visit my website at skylimitnp.org. Um, and you can look out for a few things we have coming up. Also follow the NBAA YoPro on LinkedIn. We're doing like the 40 under 40. We're getting more youth involved. Also, you can also just follow up some of the things that we have coming up this year. We'll be having more events, and you know this is a good way to connect with the youth.
Awesome, awesome. Ms. Evans, thank you so very much for your time and what you do.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Have a great one. And thank you for joining us on the Richard Watkins podcast.